Where are you, Damien?
I am on Long Island, New York. Did you ever play a gig here? Jones Beach, I would assume.
I've done Jones Beach, and I actually played there with Blondie in the summer. But we did the last two gigs of the tour at Huntingdon. We played there
Yes,
two
the
nights. It
Paramount
was a
in
really
Huntington.
nice theatre. I liked it. It was cool. And we stayed in Garden City,
Yeah.
a nice
Nice.
hotel, which seems to be a wedding venue. But there were no spares going.
You definitely have been here a lot of times then. Well, before I ask you about consequences coming, I have a stupid question for you. And
Right.
I find that whatever your name is, people just give you stuff and memorabilia related to that. They go, hey, I'm going to meet this person, I'll give it. Do you have a lot of Matlock or Andy Griffith stuff?
No, no. But I tell you what, I was coming back from the States once in a bit of a rush, and I went through leaving the country. I went through not custom passport control, and there was a young lady there, and I don't know if she was trying to make conversation. She said, "Hey, your name's Matlock," and I said, "Yes." She said, "There's a TV show called Matlock," and I said, "Yes, I'm aware of it." Now this was quite a long while ago, and I was a bit annoyed. There was this bloke called Matlock. He was an old grey-haired bloke, right? And at the time, I wasn't, but I am now, right? And she said, "Are you related?" And I said, "Well, I think he's an actor." And she went, "You mean you're not related?" And I said, "I think I'm a bit late for my flight, love."
Well,
there you go.
as promised, we're talking about your new record, Consequences Coming. And the first song that most of us heard was Head on a Stick. Did you know when you recorded it, hey, this is a single?
Don't know. There was a few contenders. Consequences Coming. Something else. You kind of know, when I write a song and record it, I kind of think of everything that it might be a single. I write in that kind of way. I was brought up in the '60s when it was all those fantastic early singles by the Kinks and the Who and the Yardbirds and the Stones and all that, and I like that kind of tight 3.5 minute format of song. So I kind of write that way, really. I mean, occasionally you get a bit more explorative, or somebody's doing a guitar solo and you have to have a very long fade, but sometimes you have to fade it a bit quicker. But I think it became apparent Head on a Stick should be the first single. What's going on in England at the moment, I think, is quite sort of apt of the political climate here. And I think, there's been certain things have been foisted upon the Western world that are a bit too far lurched to the right for my liking.
Sure.
Having said that, when I was in Huntingdon, one of the Blondie people said, "It's pretty MAGA around here," and I was like, so, I don't know what your take on it is, but that's certainly my take, is that's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah.
It really is a 50-50 scenario over here politically. And you just learn over time to just go, right. You have the right to
Well, maybe, but on the other end, if you never say your piece, you never get anywhere, So I've kind of tried to do it through song,
Yeah, absolutely. And the band that we see in the video, is that who played on the record?
Well, it's some of them. It's like my kind of core gigging and touring band over in England, but there's some guest artists on it. Clem Burke plays on a couple of tracks. He actually plays on the Head on a Stick video, but he wasn't around when we had to do the video. L Slick plays on a lot of the album. I actually played the guitar on Head on a Stick. Got a guy called James Halliwell, who's a great keyboard player, plays with the Water Boys and helped me record the vocals. Norman Watroy from the Blockheads plays bass on a lot of it, and kind of basically did it for a cappuccino and a sticky bun.
Cappuccino and a sticky bun. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So in the last year and change, we also heard stuff that you had written from Earl Slick that hadn't come out originally. So you've been the whole time creating and nonstop. But is there a lot more recorded than this whole album?
Hang on, you got 12? No, you got 13 songs on the album. You want more already? Give me a break.
Well, you never know these days where, you know, John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers had this period where he was putting out one solo album a month, which is too much. And then other people say, well, hey, you know, I write every day. It's who I am as a creative person. And then other people go, oh, 12 songs, that's all I do every 2-3 years. So it's different.
I'm sort of between the two, I think, really. And I write a song when I feel I've got a good idea for a song and not writing a song for the sake of it. If I had a record company offering me $1 million if to have a record by the end of next week, I'd probably rustle something up, but it's not like that. A bit of a frustration, really, you know, because I think I could have been more what's the word, productive with a little bit more backup, which I've got now, but I struggled to get that for a while with my own stuff. And I think it's kind of people just want to pigeonhole you for what you did in the past, and it's hard to break out of that, you know. In fact, I was at this pub about just before Christmas where Paul Simonon plays records on a Thursday night, and I bumped into Damon Albarn, and he kind of wanted to have a chat about how it's hard to break away from being stuck in the past, but this kind of mutual gut friend intervened, and he'd had a bit too much to drink, and it kind of spoilt our conversation. So there you go.
Damon is very hard to pigeonhole because you don't know when he's making new music if it's going to come out as Blur, Gorillaz, The Good, The Bad, The Queen, etc. But I would say the same about you, because for most people, being a member of a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band would be it. And then in your case, there was Rich Kids and the stuff you did with Lee Rocker. It's this really great, complex discography you have. So when someone comes to see you live in support of Consequences Coming, are they going to get stuff from your whole career, or is the focus on?
Oh, they'll get what they get, and all those things that tie it all together. They'll get songs written by Glen Matlock, and you know, you have to do a few kind of crowd pleasers. You don't. If I'd gone to see David Bowie and he didn't do Heroes, I would have gone home disappointed. But there you go. That's the way the cookies crumbled.
Right. So will we get a US tour of just you, or is the US touring focused on Blondie at the moment?
Well, I've got a Blondie tour coming up. Although they're more selected gigs than a tour. I did want this album out the tail end of last year, and it just didn't work out that way. So now I've got to kind of slot it in, but it gives us some more time to set some things up properly. If I get a good reaction on the record, and over here I've had nothing but good reaction to it. Hopefully that'll be echoed in the States. You know, I love coming to America and playing. So we'll see, really.
What was your first tour of the States? Because I assume you were
easy. My first, well, apart from a tiny little warm-up show at the Hot Club in Philadelphia, my first proper big gig was with Iggy Pop at the Palladium in New York on Halloween in 1979. Back then in England, nobody knew what Halloween was, unless you lived in a little village in Cornwall or something like that. The whole audience were dressed in Halloween costume. The Cramps supported us, and backstage Debbie Harry was dressed as a witch, as I remember, and she gave me a kiss on the cheek. That was my first time in New York, 23. That wasn't bad.
Was New York ever a home or someplace that you considered moving to?
I thought about it, and I've been thinking about it recently. You still there?
Yes.
But also, one of my hobbies is looking at estate agents, you know, realtors, kind of places to buy and rent. And the prices in Manhattan, where I'd really like to live, down in the West Village, it's a little bit beyond my reach at the moment. So if you guys out there go and buy my record, I might be able to live at the end of Morton Street, you know, just by Greenwich Avenue there.
I think that we can start a GoFundMe for that, and many people would oblige. But what is life like for you when you're not playing music? I say that because you've always kept up mystique over the years, whether or not that was on purpose.
Mystique? How do you mean?
Okay. When you say Glen Matlock, you go, okay, yeah, the guy from Rich Kids and Sex Pistols, punk rock bass player.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about other musicians, when you say Alice Cooper, you go, oh yeah, he golfs a lot. Yes, his kids are named this and this and this.
Oh, I
He
see what
lives
you
in
mean.
Arizona. And you go, Glen Matlock, yeah, I love his music. And that's kind of it.
Big Queen's Park Rangers fan, and I'm renowned for, whether I want one or not, buying a lucky chicken balti pucker pie and taking a picture of it. And when I was in Los Angeles last summer, I even got an email out of the blue from one of the representatives of the pucker pie brand company,
Mhm.
who thought I was a great ambassador and offered me free pies for life. So how's about that? And also, think this.
Yes.
I hadn't spoken to Steve Jones for about 3 years for no real reason apart from it was lockdown.
Yeah.
And at half time at the game, he'd seen my picture of the pucker pie on Instagram, and he wrote to me and he said, "You down Loftus Road?" And then we reconnected. So there you go. So I like football and pies. No, but I do loads of things. I'm into art. Because I'm lucky enough to travel around the world, it's a good excuse to hit the local art galleries, Chicago, MoMA, wherever you are, Paris. In fact, I'm going to Paris next week, so I'll probably go to the Louvre or somewhere like that. And yeah, I've got quite Catholic tastes. I do like a demonstration these days. I've been on a few marches. So I'm quite anti what's going on here, and will march for it. I like to be seen then, but they're normally a laugh as well. Both my sons are in bands. And last night I did press all day long. Then my son was playing at a place called Coco.
Mhm.
So I went up there, to check him out and make sure he didn't spill beer down the back of the Marshall amplifier that I'd lent him.
So if I can project on you, I'm going to say that Glen Matlock has the right amount of fame where you have the credits that open up all the doors and get you the restaurant reservations, but you could put on a baseball cap and nobody knows it's you and you could just walk on by. In other words, you could take as many photos as you want and still get the reservations.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I hadn't quite thought of it that way, but yeah, I'm happy with my level of fame, but it's not what drives me. It's the fame that comes with trying to get your music out. And what drives me is that I think I still write pretty good songs. It's a matter of opinion, but I'd rather people listen to the new ones than the old ones, or listen to the new ones too. That I like to live in the present, doff my cap to the past. I don't know. I'd actually have a baseball cap because that's that side of the pond kind of thing,
Yeah.
and look to the future. That's where I'm at.
And when Cooking Vinyl came on board to release this album, did you have the contract with them before making the album, or did you shop it, make it independently?
No, I'd already made it off my own back, and it was going to come out in Universal. But you know what? I've never been mucked around by a record company so much in my life that I'm glad that I'm now with Cooking Vinyl. It's Universal.
It's great to see that the album is coming out on vinyl because a lot of labels go, well, we don't have the place to put all the vinyl records, so that's okay.
Well, they used to, yeah, yeah, and they were only thin and slim, weren't they? So, yeah. So I'm pleased about that. I've just got my small collection of select but important vinyl to me over the other side of the room there. But since we haven't got the camera on, you won't see it. But I was looking for something the other day, and I found the Sergeant Pepper album I got for Christmas when I was about 10 or 11. And I thought, I looked inside, it's in pretty good nick. And it's still got the board that comes with, where you can cut out the badge or the moustache and all that.
Yeah.
It's still in there. So that must be worth a few bob. So,
well, if you sell that, you can get that New York City apartment.
I hadn't thought of
that.
you'll sowing seeds. I couldn't get rid of that. It was from my faults,
Well, I got two more questions for you, and then I'm going to let you roam free. And
okay.
The first one is about Consequences Coming. Do you know what the second single is, or the next focus track that we might get a video or
I think it might well be Consequences Coming, Head on a Stick. They're kind of part of. There's 4 songs on the album, which are kind of to do with the debacle that is Brexit over here, but also I think they got maybe a universal theme of how we're being taken for Charlies a little bit. And the other 2 songs are Magic Carpet Ride and one called This Ship. And I was at one stage thinking of putting them out as an EP, but they're not. So I think next one's going to be Consequences Coming, and that's what I kind of like to see happen for a certain bunch of people, mainly politicians, that have led us up the garden path, I think, and pretended that they come on in our support, but actually, or they're just looking after their own backs. Yeah. So, you know, the album is about comeuppance, and that's what Head on a Stick is about. I think, you know, it's a metaphorical thing that people should be made to pay the consequences of their actions and be held to account. Yeah. But also, it's a bit of a toe tapper. So if you want to describe the single in a short phrase, I would call it a spleen venting toe tapper.
A spleen. Okay, that's the first time I've heard that.
SVTT, right? SVTT. Actually, that sounds like a sexually transmitted disease. Maybe that's not a good idea, but you know what I mean.
Well, the SVT is also a bass amp, so it works both ways.
Oh, do you want to hear a funny story?
Please.
When I was playing with Iggy Pop, we was in San Francisco, and Jack Cassidy was supporting Iggy Pop, right? And he turned up at the sound check, and his sideline band was called Jack Cassidy's SVT. He didn't have one, and I had to lend him my SVT to Jack Cassidy's SVT. It's quite... But it was a bit wrong somehow. But anyway, it was a good lad. So there you go.
Paul Gilbert from Mr. Big has a song called SVT on one of his albums, and I'm wondering if that got him free SVT amps for life.
Well, maybe, but actually, maybe I should write a song called
Free New York Apartment, and maybe
Free New York Apartment and Fender Basement, because that's actually where I'm at. I'm a Fender Basement.
Well, there you go. 13 more songs, not too hard now that we know that. And the last thing I have for you, this is a personal curiosity thing. One of my favorite bands, besides the Sex Pistols, is Van Halen. And supposedly, Noel Monk got the gig with Van Halen because they went, you can handle the Sex Pistols, therefore you can handle Van Halen.
Oh, okay.
Were there any run-ins that you had as a fellow Warner Brothers artist that was around?
Well, I think I've been and gone by that time, you know, so I've never really had much to do with Van Halen. I know they're a bit widdly diddly, and I'm more of a Chuck Berry kind of guy, you know, so but yeah, he's a good front man. In fact, I saw him at some festival, maybe the Reading Festival donkeys years ago. David Lee Roth and yeah.
So it's just, hey, we were on the same label and we happened to have the same tour manager at one point, and that was it. The paths did not cross.
No, my paths never crossed with them at that stage. But that doesn't mean he didn't do it when Sid was in the band. But they didn't last very long, so I don't know if somebody didn't do something right about me.
You're not wrong yet again, Glenn. But thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you live in New York the next time, whether it's a solo gig or with Blondie. And thank you for the many years of great music.
Thank you very much. More where that came from.
Paltrocast.